This is my second video where I aim to address the key points of various videos from Chad rather than responding in minutiae to every bad point that Chad brings up. In the first part I mainly focused on the more sciencey side of things, so in this part I'll be looking at his videos about atheism. Section 1. Are atheists real? Clearly they are. I mean, there are definitely many people who do not believe in any deity. Generally, when someone starts off near the start of their video with
Let me make a factual statement. Atheists aren't real.
it's pretty clear that this is not going to be an accurate video or an honest video, which would have worded the statement something like, I'm going to make a statement here, then say, now let me support this statement. They don't begin with the assertion that their statement is true. In this case, far from being a correct statement, it's patently untrue, as atheists clearly do exist. Of course, Chad goes on to explain why he's reached this position, and therein the problems become apparent. His reasoning is faulty. He states that you could know that a deity exists via some supernatural event. Of course, a shortcoming is that we need data rather than anecdotal evidence, but let's forego that objection for now. For atheism, however, he states the opposite.
Now, the opposite of this is that no one can ever know with 100% certainty that God does not exist. And why is this? It's simple. Because no one can know everything. There is no hypothetical scenario that exists that could let you know with 100% certainty that God does not exist.
Then stating,
This means being an atheist is an illogical stance, and true atheism isn't even real.
this is simply wrong. By this reasoning, Brahman must exist because there is no hypothetical scenario that exists that would enable you to know with 100% certainty that Brahman does not exist. It's the same for Thor, Ahura Mazda, Zeus, or the hundreds, if not thousands, of other gods and mythical creatures. I highly doubt that Chad believes in these things just because you cannot prove that they do not exist, and yet he doesn't understand why people reject his Middle Eastern deity. It doesn't matter that these things cannot be disproven because that's not the way it works. The burden of proof is generally on the person making the positive claim, and in this case, the burden of proof certainly does fall on the theist who is claiming that their deity exists. The fact that something cannot be disproven doesn't automatically mean that it exists, for goodness sake. Such reasoning is stupendously awful. By that reasoning, pretty much every being you could think of with a set of properties that prevent it being falsified exists. I mean, that's just daft. A point I've raised before bears repeating. We start with a null hypothesis here. No deity exists. This is atheism. The only reasonable assumption to make in light of blind, unsubstantiated assertions such as those for the existence of deities is that, until further evidence is provided, no deities exist. This is the most reasonable position to hold. The alternative hypothesis is that a deity or deities exist. This is thus far unsubstantiated by any tangible evidence, but the null hypothesis is always open to being shown incorrect, and the alternative correct by evidence. Until it is supported, it is not a reasonable position to hold, and is certainly a lot less reasonable position to hold than to remain sceptical and remain at the null. Along with this half-hearted failure at reasoning, Chad also repeatedly denigrates his opposition within his video, which, as a side note, is not conducive to the civil discourse Chad claims to partake in. This is not exactly out of character for Chad. I think I've only had one comment thread where he's remained civil. Along with this, he states that identifying oneself as an atheist is disgusting.
Even mainstream media or shows or people that come out and claim they're atheists or they believe in atheists, I mean, it's just disgusting because it's not even a valid position.
If we're going to go down this route, I'm going to suspend the respect that I have for moderate religion. Far from atheism being an invalid position, it is the opposite. Atheism is the only valid position to take in light of the complete lack of tangible evidence for the existence of any deity, as briefly discussed earlier. And that's any deity. This is not suddenly suspended just because a bigger number of people believe in one deity over another. No, this is any deity. The fact that many people believe in a deity is no more evidence for that deity than spaghetti bolognese being dropped from the cafeteria rota is evidence for a pasta cartel that polices the supply of pasta and pays off politicians and is run from underground bunkers by lizard people. Of course, even if his reasoning was sound, which Chad apparently considers it to be, this sort of behaviour and tone remain unacceptable in civil conversation. For one, he assumes that everybody has seen his video, which is presumptuous and narcissistic, and secondly, he presumes his arguments to be incontrovertible when even the merest scrutiny makes them collapse. Flinging out ad hominems in the way he does throughout his video, mainly aimed at the show the atheist experience towards the latter stages, does his already poor argument no favours. They just make him look like an angry little man. Section 2. Why do atheists even bother? In another video, Chad provides what I feel can be laid out in the style of a formal argument. Premise 1. If something were obviously not true, nobody would spend time debunking it. Premise 2. Atheists spend a lot of time trying to debunk the idea of God. Premise 3. They wouldn't do so if it was so obviously not true. Conclusion. Therefore, God exists. This is what I get out of his video, The Crazy Family Member. I kid you not. He uses the example of a family member who says that a flying pink unicorn built and lives in his house. This is pretty crazy, I'll grant you, but ultimately no more insane than some theologies I've heard. Anyway, why do we bother? We bother because religion can impart appreciable harm on the lives and minds of millions around the world. We bother because the religious have extraordinary amounts of money at their disposal. We bother because people are ultimately being told lies by authority figures, which is tantamount to a breach of trust. We need trust to keep society in order. We bother because the Bible is a hate-filled book and its followers think they can stick their noses and theologies into other people's lives, into their bedrooms, into medical labs, into governments. The idea that a fundamentalist Christian could get into office in the US, which has the largest stockpile of nuclear weapons, is, frankly, a little frightening. We bother because bullshit ideas should not be allowed to float about without criticism. We bother because, to quote a friend of mine, reality matters, and we are all caring people who care about reality and about other people. But why do we bother according to Chad?
So my question to atheists is, if you really feel like our God, the Creator, is so unbelievable and absurd, why do you spend so much time and energy trying to prove Him wrong? The answer is, you know deep down in your heart that we are correct. And in fact, you're trying to convince yourself otherwise.
This you know in your heart argument is such a load of bollocks. And you can tell it's a load of bollocks because you can swing it back a 480 degree at the person making the claim. Why do you, Christians, spend so much time and energy trying to logically prove that your God exists? Why do you spend so much time and energy trying to prove that atheism is wrong? The answer? Because deep down you know there is no God. See? It's as easy as that. It can just be turned back around. Would that convince Chad or any other theist? No. Then why does he think that this is a convincing argument from him? Why would theists use this weak-ass argument?
If atheists really thought believing in God was such a ridiculous, absurd, insane notion, they wouldn't spend so much time and energy trying to disprove Him.
If theists really thought not believing in God was such a ridiculous, absurd, insane notion, they wouldn't spend so much time and energy trying to disprove the notion. Bam! Mind blown. Section 3. The Art of Self-Delusion as typified by Chad Elliott. Moving on to Chad's video, Atheists are Intellectual Cowards. This video is an amusing display of egotism and, well, delusion. Chad states,
I've already shown that something cannot come from nothing. I've already shown that the universe is not eternal and infinite regress is completely illogical. I've already shown that the cause of the universe has to be exempt from these premises for the universe to exist. I've already shown that the universe began to exist and therefore the universe had a cause. I've also proven that you have no other choice but to accept the cause of the universe as being a personal mind or personal creator.
Of course, none of this has been shown to be true or proven by any stretch of the imagination. What he has done is asserted that these things are true. Unfortunately, it would appear that Chad is unable to distinguish between his assertions and reality. Even the statement the universe began to exist hasn't been shown to be true by him, and that's technically correct in the Big Bang model. As an aside, it may be technically correct, but it's not proven as implied, as proof in the technical sense only exists in maths. It has been shown to be correct, beyond all reasonable doubt, in the Big Bang model at least. So there's the delusion. Where's the egotism? Well, he seems to think that all atheists should have seen his video or heard his ideas, and that they are, as mentioned before, incontrovertible. Obviously, these beliefs are bollocks on both accounts. Section 4. Evidence for atheism? Chad doesn't like the idea that someone who is holding the position of the null hypothesis would actually like to be presented with evidence for the alternative before they think about changing their stance. He doesn't like it because
the issue is there is absolutely zero evidence for their beliefs. Not some, not a little, not a tiny bit, none, zero.
Of course, by the very definition of what weak or agnostic atheism is, as in it's not a positive position, it's a position that is just reserving judgment, there wouldn't be evidence required to support the position any more than you would require evidence to support the position that there are no space monkeys living in the asteroid belt.
Pirates, Peanut! Pirates!
This is a fairly fundamental misunderstanding. I'm not an atheist because there's some positive evidence for the stance. I'm an atheist in large part because theists have consistently failed to produce some tangible evidence for the existence of their deity, especially when extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence.
And this is what pisses me off. How are you going to act like you hold proof and evidence in high regard when you deny all the clear evidence for God and then choose to accept a belief system that there is zero evidence for?
I mean, by this reasoning, I'm forced to assume that Chad believes in leprechauns, trolls, fairies, and voluminous numbers of other mythical creatures, because, after all, there's no evidence that they don't exist. Skeptics ask for evidence when evaluating a claim. Of course they do, because if they didn't, they wouldn't be very good skeptics, would they? Section 5. Dat general relativity.
So, besides making a long list of things that God deniers must accept with zero evidence, I'll just start off with the most important. Please give me any proof or evidence that a pinpoint of energy can suddenly expand and create an entire universe. There it is.
Boom. Atheism destroyed, right? Not quite. The singularity is arrived at via general relativity. The evidence is that the universe is expanding, so, rewinding the clocks using general relativity, you get to a singularity. Of course, general relativity could be wrong, it's only a partial theory, and we might not have started at a singularity. Section 6. Honesty in discourse. Or rather, why Chad fails at it.
So, the next time a God denier asks you for proof or evidence for God, simply respond, there is tons of proof and evidence for our Creator, and I'll be glad to share it with you, as soon as you provide me with any proof or evidence for your insane beliefs.
This is not a way to go about honest discussion. When someone asks you a question, you answer it. You don't say, nah, you answer this question which I've set up in such a way as to make it impossible to answer first. You answer the damn question. Say you have an atheist. They ask you what evidence you have for the existence of your deity of choice. By responding, no, you answer my question, have you got any further in the discussion? No. Do you think that they will accept being brushed off and are likely to even attempt to answer your spurious question? No. Hey Pete, can you explain to me what evidence you have for your idea that sheep can fly and are controlled by aliens? There's tons of evidence, and I'd be glad to share it with you as soon as you could provide me with any evidence for your insane belief that they're not. But that doesn't make any sense. Can't you just answer my question? Nope, not until you answer mine. If you cannot see the flaw in the dialogue, it's likely that you are Chad Elliott.
That's why we are intellectually smart.
Section 7. Atheists must choose. No. In the video, appropriately titled Atheists Must Choose, Chad states,
I want to make the assertion that atheists, or anyone who denies the uncreated Creator as the cause of the universe, is actually forced to make a choice. And they have to pick one of the following two options.
This is something that follows from a video that I've already responded to at length, his Uncreated Creator video. Since we've been over that video and frankly found it wanting, the whole idea that the universe has to be caused by an uncreated creator is a load of malarkey. Ignoring the still standing objections I have, let's continue to the two options he gives.
You have to accept that either space and time are eternal, or something can come about on its own from absolute pure nothingness and then create entire universes?
Let's look at these one by one. Is space-time eternal? It may well be. I've heard arguments that the space-time was pre-existing, but I've also heard that some theorems result in the universe having some sort of definite origin. I've studied neither in sufficient depth to make the decision between them, but running this from standard Big Bang cosmology, I'd have to say that space-time isn't eternal. What about the second option? Seems intuitively reasonable, right? Intuition, you oft-flawed bedfellow of reason. Energetically, this universe is probably not something, as its total energy is zero, with all the positive energy balanced by negative gravitational energy. So to claim that this universe is the something that came from nothing is somewhat semantically inaccurate, at least where energy is concerned. And what about pure nothingness? Surely I have no objection here. Well, actually I have two. For one, it needs to be explained how it can be stated that the field has zero energy for a defined time period, as Chad is doing. This goes against what we know of quantum mechanics. Moreover, as unintuitive as this may sound, there is no actual reason for a universe to be unable to result from pure nothing. This whole idea of pure nothing is completely unobserved, so we simply have no precedent for the behaviour that could emerge. Yes, it's oft stated that nothingness only breeds more nothingness, but ultimately that's been reached by intuition and must be treated with a fair bit of scepticism. So, which is it? What is my choice? From deduction it will be something from pure nothing, but my objections to that would need to be addressed before I would make any decision. I'm abstaining. I choose neither due to lack of evidence. Of course, any choice I'd make would fail to satisfy Chad, as he makes clear.
So, atheist, I'm dying to know, which one of these two do you pick? This is an honest question, and after you make your decision, please provide me with proof and evidence for your selection. Please provide me with the logic, the details, and the rationale behind your choice.
Proof only exists in mathematics, and the theorem behind either option are going to be mathematically complex. Even if I could detail the math and evidence behind the option I'd choose, Chad wouldn't be able to follow it anyway, so we'd get nowhere. The very origins of the universe are amazingly difficult to grasp and to deal with, and the theorems regarding it are complex and numerous. To simply invoke a deity to make the matter go away is asininely facile. That's it from me. Thanks for watching, and take care.